Guilt is a strange thing. It doesn't just sit quietly in the heart. It leaks out in actions. When a woman cheats, she may never admit it, but her behavior, it betrays her. The signs are subtle, often disguised as affection, excuses, or even random habits that appear out of nowhere. And the scary part, most men miss them until it's too late. Stick around, because sign number 7 is the easiest to spot, and I guarantee you 100% of cheating women do it. Only a small percentage of men who watch videos like this are subscribed. If you want the raw truth about female psychology that most men never hear, hit that subscribe button now. It helps this message reach more men who need clarity. Sign 1. She becomes overly affectionate. On the surface, this one can feel flattering. She's suddenly hugging you more, initiating intimacy, leaving sweet notes, or texting, "I miss you," at random times of the day. Most men take this at face value and think, wow, she's falling for me all over again. But the real question you should ask is, why now? Psychology shows that guilt often creates what's called compensatory behavior. When someone knows they've done wrong, they try to tip the scales back toward goodbye overcompensating in other areas. In this case, she's betrayed your trust. And deep down, she knows it. The sudden surge of affection isn't born out of passion. It's born out of pressure. She's not only trying to convince you everything is fine, but she's also trying to convince herself. Every hug, every compliment, every "I love you" eyeless about expressing genuine feelings, and more about silencing the guilt gnawing at her conscience. The takeaway: don't be blinded by sudden sweetness. Love builds steadily over time. Sudden spikes in affection, especially when nothing else has changed, can be less about love and more about damage control. Sign 2. Random oversharing. At first glance, it seems harmless. She's suddenly texting you about what she had for lunch, sharing a funny meme, or telling you a random story about her coworker's cat. You might even think she's opening up more. That's good, right? But the timing is what matters. If this oversharing comes out of nowhere, it can be a red flag. Guilt creates paranoia. She knows she's hiding something big, so she tries to cover it up with constant noise. The random details are filler. They give the illusion of closeness while distracting you from what's really going on. In her mind, the more she floods you with harmless updates, the less likely you are to suspect the silence or the gaps. The truth is, genuine communication is balanced. It's natural, not forced. When she starts volunteering excessive, unnecessary details, it can be her way of hiding in plain sight. If her updates feel like smoke that doesn't quite match the fire, pay attention. Sometimes I'm just sharing really means I'm distracting you. Sign 3. Picking more fights. This one hurts because it feels personal. Suddenly, tiny things like leaving socks on the floor or forgetting to call turn into full-blown arguments. You're left wondering, why is she on edge all the time? The answer lies in projection. Guilt makes people restless, irritable, and defensive. When she cheats, she knows deep down she is in the wrong. But instead of facing it, she subconsciously shifts the blame. By making you the villain, she reduces her own sense of shame. Think of it as psychological smoke and mirrors. If she can convince herself that you're the problem, lazy, careless, inattentive, then her betrayal doesn't sting quite as much. And here's the kicker. These fights rarely feel proportional. The anger feels out of place, like it doesn't quite match the situation. Frequent irrational fights are often less about dirty dishes and more about dirty secrets. When arguments appear without clear cause, it may not be about the mess in the kitchen. It could be about the mess in her conscience. Sign 4. Sudden privacy obsession. This one often sneaks up gradually. She used to leave her phone on the counter, unlocked with no second thought. Now it's always face down, always locked, and suddenly protected by a passcode you don't know. She shuts the laptop quickly when you walk into the room. The bathroom door once left open is now locked every time. The shift is what matters. Everyone deserves privacy, but sudden secrecy is different. Psychologically, guilt triggers protective behavior. She knows there are traces, texts, calls, or subtle patterns that could expose her, so she builds walls around her devices and routines. She may even try to justify this change as wanting space or needing boundaries. And while boundaries are healthy, the timing gives it away. Boundaries are discussed openly in a stable relationship. Guilt-driven secrecy happens suddenly and defensively. It's not privacy itself that's suspicious. It's the abrupt change in how fiercely she guards it. If transparency turns into tension overnight, it's worth asking yourself, what exactly is she hiding? Sign 5. Excessive niceness to your friends and family. At first, this feels like a dream. She's suddenly complimenting your buddies, volunteering to help your mom, or being extra polite at family gatherings. You might think, wow, she's finally bonding with the people I care about. But sometimes the psychology tells a different story. When guilt weighs heavy, people crave validation. By winning over your friends and family, she's subconsciously building a shield of approval. If they adore her, you're less likely to suspect anything. After all, who cheats on the woman your mom swears is an angel? The effort feels out of character. Maybe she never cared about impressing your brother before, but suddenly she's laughing at all his jokes. It's not growth, it's guilt. Genuine warmth grows gradually. Sudden exaggerated sweetness often hides a deeper motive. Camouflage for betrayal. Science 6. She brings up random accusations. Here's a classic case of projection. Out of nowhere, she starts asking, "Why were you online so late?" Or, "Who's that woman in your contacts?" At first, you might defend yourself thinking she's insecure. But the psychology is darker. Guilty people often accuse others of the very things they're doing. It's called deflection through projection. By painting you as the suspicious one, she shifts the spotlight away from herself. It gives her temporary relief. If you're on the defensive, you're not questioning her actions. The accusations rarely feel logical. They pop up without reason, often laced with unusual intensity. It's not about clarity, it's about control. The louder she questions your loyalty, the more likely she's questioning her own. When blame seems misplaced, ask yourself, is she hiding her guilt behind her accusations? Sign 7, she suddenly changes her routine. This zone of the easiest signs to spot and one that almost every cheating woman shows. Her schedule shifts. Maybe she always came home at 6 bucks, but now it's 7, then 8. Maybe she suddenly has work dinners, late-night errands, or new hobbies that never existed before. The psychology is simple. Maintaining 2 lives requires juggling time. Guilt makes her sloppy. She'll use vague excuses. Traffic was bad, ran into an old friend, or just needed air. The stories feel thin and the timing feels off. Guilty people hate explaining too much, so they often say just enough to cover themselves, but not enough to satisfy your curiosity. The inconsistency in her routine becomes the crack in the armor. Words can be rehearsed. Schedules can't. If her pattern shifts suddenly and the reasons don't add up, it's not just coincidence. It's a red flag of guilt. Sate, overcompensating with gifts. On the surface, this feels like a blessing. She surprises you with a new shirt, cooks your favorite meal, or even plans a special night out. You might think, she must really appreciate me. But ask yourself, why now? And why this sudden burst of generosity? Guilt doesn't just create paranoia. It also creates a need for redemption. She knows she's betrayed your trust, and the gifts are her way of balancing the emotional ledger. Every present, every surprise is less about you and more about easing the weight on her conscience. The catch? The gestures often feel forced or out of rhythm with her usual behavior. Genuine acts of love are consistent. Guilt-driven gifts feel like sudden spikes. When gifts feel more like cover-ups than natural affection, pay attention. Sometimes generosity is just guilt-airing perfume. Sign 9. Emotional distance after intimacy. This zone is subtle and painful. After intimacy, most couples share closeness, laughter, or a quiet moment of connection. But when she's guilty, you'll notice a coldness. She might roll over quickly, grab her phone, or seem distracted instead of bonded. Why? Because guilt steals presence. If she's been intimate with someone else, she can't fully invest emotionally with you. Instead, she pulls back to protect herself from the weight of comparison. It's not that she doesn't know how to connect. It's that her conscience won't let her. This shift is often the hardest for men to accept because it feels deeply personal. But remember, her distance is a reflection of her actions, not your worth. When intimacy ends with silence or detachment, it's not always stress. It may be guilt casting its shadow. Sign 10. Unnecessary stories that don't add up. You ask a simple question, where were you? And instead of a straightforward answer, you get a novel. She explains who she saw, what they talked about, where they ate, and even what song was playing in the background. Sounds thorough, right? Actually, it's the opposite. Truthful people give short, clear answers because they don't have anything to hide. Guilty people, however, fear being doubted, so they pile on details. It's called over-explaining. Ironically, the more details she adds, the less believable the story becomes. Watch for inconsistencies. Maybe the details change slightly the next time she tells it. Maybe the story is longer than the question required. Those cracks reveal the truth. When the answer feels bigger than the question, trust your gut. Sometimes the longer the story, the